Okay, so this is a market that you've heard a lot about, and you probably know some things about already, but I want to talk a little bit more in depth about it and then give some examples. I'm even going to draw a graph showing you what monopolies look like so you can compare it to what perfectly competitive markets look like. Unless you're an AP, you're not going to have to memorize this, but it might give you a better visual sort of context of how markets are graphed differently because our behavior is different and producers or firms' behaviors are different. And I know for me, seeing a visual representation tends to help. But what a monopoly is, at its most basic core, it's a market that just has one firm. And sometimes when you think about monopolies, you think about just gigantic companies, and that has been the case in history. We don't have a lot of monopolies, national or international monopolies anymore. A long time ago during the Gilded Age, we had things like Standard Oil or U.S. Steel and stuff, and those probably were pretty close to having monopolies or trusts. Probably like in the 90s, the early 2000s, Microsoft was pretty close. In the software industry or market, but that has changed too. And so there are also local monopolies we're going to talk about, and even some government-sponsored monopolies that we're going to talk about. But one big thing, and what makes it, is that it's a market that just has one firm, and that firm has no real competition. That doesn't mean that the firm acts. There are different types of monopolies, and so the type of monopoly will determine how that firm behaves. But having no real competition obviously is a huge advantage to that company because there is no competition to worry about. Therefore, that firm has, I'm sorry, I kind of ran off a cliff here. That firm has substantial power over price. In fact, we call monopolies price makers because they can, not 100%, pretty much they can set their price much more compared to a firm in a different type of market, particularly a perfectly competitive market or a monopolistically competitive market. So a monopoly is a firm just with a market that just has one firm. The firm has no real competition inside that market, which means it doesn't have a lot of substitutes in that exact market. And it has some pretty substantial power over price. We call it a price maker. And lastly, it's almost impossible to enter the market against monopolies. It's not impossible, but it's pretty close. Now, there are lots of examples I want to talk about, and you can have some international sort of examples like Microsoft in the 90s. But there are other examples that you probably see all the time. If you're, for example, driving to the desert and there is no gas station within 100 miles, this gas station would end up being a monopoly, right? It's the only one in its market. It's the only one around. It can set a super high price. And if you don't want to use their gas, that's fine. Let's just hope you have enough gas to get there. So oftentimes you'll see gas stations right off of interstates in rural areas have a higher price. In Anderson County, there are 2 gas stations out by the Bluegrass Parkway, and they are a more expensive gas to buy than in town because they have some some price power, some control over the price relative to in town, monopolistic power we might call it. So gas stations in the middle of nowhere might be one. Actually, in Kentucky there are some dry counties, and so sometimes there might be like a liquor store set up right on the county line, so people go and buy that, because sometimes they call it first chance, last chance liquor. We had that in Anderson County before some of the counties around us became, had alcohol or wet counties. So some of those are just sort of by themselves. Another one might be like your garbage collection. Garbage collection. The government gives the right to certain garbage companies or trash collection companies the right to do it. Now, what happens with this, with your like electric company, your gas company, your garbage company, your water company, those are all government sponsored. Not that the government makes money on them, because they don't really. But what the government will do is say, okay, because if we had competition, then it might not actually be that great for everyone. So, for example, we'll use like garbage collection. Let's say that here's a county, and let's say here's a city. Well, you might have tons of people in the city, but you might also have just random people kind of far away. Well, if you're the electric company or the gas company or the water company or the garbage company, you don't want to have to service these people way out here. It takes forever to get there. You're not going to make any money. Your costs will be too high. You want to just serve where there's a population that's very, very dense. Because it's easy. If you're an electric company, it's easier to run wire and cable. If you're a gas company, it's definitely easier to have underground stuff closer because you can run off of those. Getting it way out here is a pain in the butt. Same thing with garbage collection. Do you really want to drive all the way out here to collect a couple people's garbage and drive all the way back? So what the government will do is say, listen, we will give you the right to be the only garbage collector, the only source of electricity, the only source of natural gas, the only source of water in an area, but you have to service everybody, okay? In some places, like in Anderson County, there are different parts of the county that get serviced by different groups. Sometimes it's county only, sometimes it's city. But those areas in town, you don't get a lot of choice as to how you're going to get your electricity or your gas or your garbage or your water because it's set. Those are another examples of monopolies. So not all monopolies are, Microsoft. Some of them get it because they are the only one in an area. For example, if you live in Central Kentucky where I live, Kroger in Versailles is super expensive. It's the most expensive Kroger I've ever been to. And the reason why is there is no real competition, right? I mean, there's gas stations and stuff, but there's no Walmart around, so their prices can be higher. In Anderson County, you have a huge Walmart grocery store and you have a Kroger, and because of that, they have to have their prices lower because there is some substitute there, right? So just because you're not Microsoft doesn't mean you don't have monopolistic power. So those are some examples of how monopolies work and what they mean. If we were to graph it, it actually kind of looks like this. I don't know if you can see that. Let me use this one. Where you actually have a downward sloping demand curve, right? And then a marginal revenue curve changes because and this is your marginal cost curve, which actually becomes the supply curve for that firm, right? So you're actually going to produce right here, but the price is going to be up here. And you can see that the price is not the same as being on the marginal revenue curve or on the marginal cost curve. And therefore, it's different looking. So if you want to induce people to buy your stuff, that means you have to keep lowering your price. Remember, because you're a monopoly, it doesn't mean everyone has to have your good. It just means you're the only firm in that market. So I mean, if you're the only person who sells ice cream in an area, that might be great for you. But if no one likes ice cream, that doesn't help you out because you're only one. So you still have to keep your price low on some level to get more and more people, and as a result, the marginal revenue changes. Now, you're not going to need to know this, but I do want to show you that you can compare this graph with the perfectly competitive market and firm, and you can see a real difference. And those differences are there because of behavior, right? You can see there's only one graph here because the market is the firm. This is the market graph because the market is the firm, and the firm is the market because it's the only one. Right, so that's an important thing to know. But make sure you're taking away a market with just one firm, no real competition, and they have substantial power over price. Very hard to enter the market. And then we talked about some of the examples. And there are some firms that display some monopolistic control, but not total monopolistic control. Essentially, what that means is you're having some power over price because you have the advantage of being the only one in an area or the only one in a region or something like that. So those are our examples, and here's an example of how the graph looks for the market relative to the one you saw with the perfectly competitive market.